Hey friends, thanks for checking into this video. In my last video, I talked about the looming crisis of the church. In this one, I want to talk about our pathway forward. How are we going to respond and adapt and adjust so that we can engage in ministry that meets the need of the hour of this cultural moment? So I'm going to take you through a couple of tools that we utilize that you too can utilize in your context. But the first one that I want to share with you is the kingdom concept. And the kingdom concept is the convergence of three things. The first thing is the local predicament. This is the unique needs and opportunities where God has placed us. For us, this is in St. Paul, more specifically in the Highland Park neighborhood. That local predicament, along with our collective potential. Our collective potential are the unique resources and capabilities that God brings together in the group of us that make up Cultivate Network. The third is the apostolic esprit, which is really your deepest passions, burdens, convictions, what particular focus most energizes and animates your leadership. It's what gets you up and out of bed in the morning. It's what keeps you awake at night. It's what stirs you, what disturbs you, what calls you to action in this world. Now, the convergence of those three things becomes your kingdom concept, this shield right in the middle. It's your unique sweet spot as a church or a ministry. And throughout this, you're going to see Joe grow. Now, Joe represents a person who is a part of your church and how this person would experience the different elements that I'm going to walk you through. So I'll share with you along the way how it impacts Joe or Josephine grow. So when you go through and articulate your kingdom concept, you boil it down to one or two words, and for us, it's gospel saturation. We want to see the gospel saturate every nook and cranny of the Twin City metro area and beyond. So gospel saturation, we define it like this. It's the owning of the lostness of an identified people in a defined place, ensuring that every man, woman, and child has repeated opportunities to see, to hear, and to respond to the good news of Jesus Christ. So we articulate that with those two words, gospel saturation. The core of our identity as a church is that two-word phrase, gospel saturation. And so we're going to move to a tool called the vision frame. There's 4 sides to the vision frame and your vision in the middle. So your vision frame is a tool that helps you to identify and clearly articulate our unique identity as an aspiring movement. It answers the 5 irreducible questions of leadership. What is it that we do? Why do we do it? When will we be successful? How are we going to do it? And the 5th question, where is God taking us? So this helps us to gain 3 things with our team. Alignment, which is largely intellectual, but we're all aligned intellectually, knowing the way forward with clarity. The second thing is attachment. It bonds us to each other. It unites us together in the deepest purposes of Jesus. And attunement inflames our hearts with passion. It's the attunement is more of the emotional part of things. So we've got the intellectual, the relational, and the emotional side of it. So let me walk you through our vision frame. And the first question that we answer is, what are we doing? And when we answer this question with clarity, it articulates our mission. And this is what Joe hears when he's a part of us. What are we about? Joe hears that we are cultivating the way of Jesus in everyday life. And this serves as our compass. It gives us direction. It helps us to make good decisions. We know what to say yes to. We know what to say no to. So our mission, cultivating the way of Jesus in everyday life. Now, the second question, why do we do it? These are our values or our motives. It's our motivational flame that answers this great question, why do we do it? So for us, our values, our motives are adventure. The Bible from beginning to end is a book of adventure. Abraham, God calls him, says, go to a place that I will show you. Great, where is that? Hey, just go. I will show you. Moses went on an adventure. David went on an adventure. The apostles, the 12, they went on an adventure. Stephen went on an adventure. The apostle Paul went on an adventure. This is the story that we're called into, God's greater story, and our stories only make sense in God's greater story. So adventure is something we value. Love. The love of Christ compels us. God himself is love. Third value is obedience. Jesus said, if you love me, you'll obey my commandments. If you obey me, we will abide with you. The Father and I will make our abode with you. Fourth value is passion. And passion is not exactly what you might initially think, but the work of Jesus on the cross is referred to as the passion of the Christ. You feel it so deeply, it's so meaningful to you that you will be willing to sacrifice anything for it. And the overwhelming theme of the entire Bible from cover to cover is restoration. So we value restoration. This is the motivational flame that burns within us. Adventure, love, obedience, passion, and restoration. And so this is what Joe feels as he's a part of the mission God's called us to together. How are we going to do it? This is our strategy. This is where Joe goes. It serves as a flashlight, guiding the path before us and answers the question, how will we do it? This is our clear next steps. So for us, it's the Cultivate pathway. First, it begins with extraordinary prayer and fasting. I have a firm conviction that everything good in our life flows from our intimacy with God. So as we have intimacy with God, the Spirit births something in us and it flows in and through us. And the way to access that and to cultivate that and to grow that is through intimacy with God, is extraordinary prayer and fasting. Second is to live the life of a missionary. Jesus said in John 20:21, as the Father has sent me, even so I am sending you. So ingrained in the DNA of a follower of Jesus is the call to mission, to be a missionary, a sent one. Flowing out of living the life of a missionary is planting the gospel. Interestingly enough, Jesus never called anybody to plant a church, but he did call us to go and make disciples, proclaiming the good news wherever we went. So our focus is on planting the gospel, making disciples, which leads us to our fourth step. If you're faithful in that, a church will emerge. It's an interesting thing in our day and time that you can plant a church and never make disciples. A lot of new churches are formed from bringing other Christians from other churches. And a lot of these new churches aren't born out of the fruit of evangelism. But if you are diligent to make and multiply disciples, naturally a church will emerge out of that. Our fifth step in our strategy and our Cultivate pathway is multiplication. It's multiplication of disciples, leaders, micro churches, hubs, networks. So that is how we are going to do it. That answers that question, how, and it's our strategy. Next is our measures. How when will we know we are successful is the question that we're answering here. And the picture that we utilize is a bullseye. If we hit a bullseye with our strategy, what kind of disciples is that going to produce? What are the life marks or measures of that disciple? So the way we articulate that is a fully mature and fruitful disciple of Jesus is a gospel-driven missionary. The gospel compels them to live the life of a sent one, seeking to save that which was lost, as Jesus did. A fully mature disciple is a spirit-fueled worshiper. When the life of Christ is active and alive in you and you have an intimate relationship with him, the natural overflow of that is worshiping in spirit and in truth. Third mark is that everyone is discipled and everyone is discipling somebody. So you are being discipled and you are discipling somebody. Fourth mark is that your calling is discovered and your gifts activated. Each and every one of us have a unique calling within the mission of Jesus. Do you know what yours is? We feel like it's our responsibility to make sure every follower of Jesus has their calling discovered. The scripture is also clear that every Christian has at least one spiritual gift. And the primary reason God gave those spiritual gifts is for the advance of the gospel. And so, are your gifts activated? Do you know what they are? Are you trained and equipped in them? Are you given opportunities to learn what those are? And then the final mark of a mature disciple is that you are empowered and released. So this is when we will be successful, when the people that God has called to our mission are discipled in such a way that they are a gospel-driven missionary, a spirit-fueled worshiper, that they're being discipled as they disciple somebody else. Their calling is discovered, their gifts are activated, and they are empowered and released to live a life of obedient mission with Jesus. So that brings us to our vision. And our vision is the picture of God's greater future for us inside of the vision frame. So for Cultivate, it's to establish a beachhead in the city so that we can launch a disciple-making movement leading to the establishment of a mission hub that multiplies disciples, leaders, churches, businesses as mission, networks, and hubs, saturating the city with the gospel of Jesus Christ. So when you put it all together, it looks like this. The picture in the middle, this is Joe, right? So here's what Joe hears, that we're cultivating the way of Jesus in everyday life. What does Joe feel? The fire that burns within him is that of adventure, love, obedience, passion, and restoration. Now, what does Joe do? Joe lives out the Cultivate pathway of extraordinary prayer and fasting, living as a missionary, planting the gospel where he lives, works, learns, and plays. Out of that, the fruit out of that will be that a church emerges, and then he'll engage in multiplication. When will we be successful in making mature disciples of Jesus? When they bear the marks of a gospel-driven missionary, a spirit-fueled worshiper, they're discipled and discipling, calling discovered, gifts activated, they are empowered and released. And where is Joe going? He's going to the place where there's a multiplying movement of disciples, leaders, churches, BAMs, networks, and hubs, all to the glory of God. Hallelujah. So, thanks for watching this video, and if you have questions, if you'd like to talk more in depth about this, we'd love to get together with you. There's a form that you can fill out, a contact form, and we would love to discuss this more with you. Thanks for watching, and look forward to seeing you in the next video.